early over here. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. It's funny. The person I had to meet with this morning is in the Netherlands,
Mm.
and she's like, "What time is it there?" And I was like, "7 a.m." And she's like, "Oh, that's early for you." And I go, "Yeah, that's a consideration you should put in before you request a meeting. Like,
That's
don't."
who are these people?
They're
Like
just like,
what?
how's four? Like, I had somebody ask me to do a podcast last week, and they're like, how's 8 a.m. Eastern? And I was like, 5 a.m. my time? You want me to get up and you want me to get up? You want me to stay up and do your podcast at 5 in the morning my time? Okay. Like, and it's so wild. And then it's kind of crazy when you think about it, because that means that people who get up to do like those morning news interviews on the East Coast at like 6 a.m., they're doing those at 3 a.m. if they're on the West Coast. You're like, dude, that's insane.
Who records their podcast at 8 a.m. anyway?
Ugh, I don't know. That's
Well,
kind of
you are, but
ridiculous.
you know what I mean.
I mean, yeah, but that's because it's 11 a.m. your time
Right, right.
on the East Coast. So, Natalie Cuomo, thanks for joining us. I'm super excited because I've followed you on social and stuff for a while now. I can't remember. I think you opened for somebody I know at the dojo or something, and they were posting clips. And you had like some really dark jokes, and I was like, oh, she's really funny. And then I started following you, and then I find out you're doing the show with me on Friday
Y-
at the dojo in New Jersey, which is exciting.
I'm so excited. It's going to be an
It's
awesome show.
Yeah, it should be. And have you been performing a lot lately? Because it seems like you have dates all over your socials.
Yes, I have. I've been really grateful to perform in Brooklyn, Connecticut, tri-state
Places
area, baby.
places that are still open. I mean, we have like you have two options out here. You can stand in the back of a pickup truck in somebody's parking lot and perform into a karaoke machine, which, believe it or not, I've passed on those opportunities. Or you can do Zoom comedy shows, which to me is like the total bullet in the head scenario for COVID. I would rather not do stand up than do it to my computer.
Totally.
Have you
I
done any Zoom shows? You're like, I have one today. No, I'm kidding.
No, I have done a lot of Zoom shows. I feel like they help me remember my material and they help me write, but they're not comparable at all to normal stand up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really I watched a couple, like I had friends that were on them and they're like, "Come to my Zoom show." And I watched it and I was like, "Oh god, this is so it's so sad." It's just like, I've described it as like it's like jerking off compared to sex. It's like it's like you're kind of doing it, but you're not really doing it. You know what I mean?
It's embarrassing. I did a Zoom show and it just so happened that this fucking dude from my middle school was in the Zoom.
Oh,
And I'm like, great. This is what he thinks my life has become. This Zoom show with 3 audience members.
yeah. Well, we all go through those moments, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's so funny. Like I had, I had a show on Food Network for 3 seasons, and then like a year later, got fired from a job because of comedy and like hit some really hard financial times. And people are like, "You're on TV, aren't you a millionaire?" And it's like, no, I am not. I am not a millionaire. Far from it. Very far from it. So yeah, but that's always the worst thing is like when people from like your childhood or your high school, they discover you're doing comedy, but they find you doing it in the worst scenario.
Yes. Yes.
They're like, "Oh, you're doing this on Zoom for 6 people. Very nice." You're pretty new at stand up, right? You're only a few years in.
Yes. 3 years.
What gave you the itch? And I've watched you on a couple other podcasts, so I don't want to be super redundant with my questions. So if I am, just tell me to go fuck myself. But yeah, I guess like what kind of got you into it?
Um, I've been, I had been doing acting my whole life and I've been studying acting. And I just kind of wanted to write my own material. I wanted more autonomy in my career. And I just went to an open mic and I liked it. I bombed so bad that I had to go back and try it again.
That was so you bombed your first time out.
Of course. Who
Yeah.
doesn't bomb? If you think you didn't bomb your first time, then you're just delusional.
I mean, I got laughs, but I had a lot of friends that came to see me the first time. But I will tell you, if I go back and watch those clips, they're beyond cringe. Like
Yeah.
there's I'm like looking at my feet while I'm doing material, and I have a very creepy sort of like early Jim Norton vibe. Like, and I was like super fat, had like a shaved head, So I just looked like this creepy goth Uncle Fester. It was not a good look. It was not a good look.
That's amazing.
Do you remember what jokes you did your first time?
Oh my God. Unfortunately, I do because I called my dad and there were three jokes and I went over them with him.
What do you remember what one of them was? You don't have to do it, but like what were they about?
They were terrible. There was one about how like finding the clit was like trying to request an Uber. Like it was terrible.
Oh, okay. The old swiping as the clitoris bit, yeah.
Yeah. No, no, not swiping. Like how hard it was to, I don't fucking know what I was
Yeah.
thinking. Something about liking red flags, just basic stupid shit.
Mine was about how somebody taking you to White Castle is the same as anal sex. Like you kind of got to be talked into it. And then at the end, they both end up the same way with a bloody asshole. I mean, it's when you first start out, I feel like there's always like that thing of like, all right, I have to be extremely fucked up. And I
Hmm.
have to like, it's almost like you go to the most extreme parts of your brain when you're first starting. Did you feel like that when you first started doing stand up?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like my stuff was more sexual without uh poignant punchlines.
Yeah. So, um, and I guess I find like, yeah, I think when I started, it was more like, I think that was the initial thought is like, I have to be more dirty than even what I see on, you know, TV or what I see, you know what I mean? Like, so, and then you get in, you realize like, oh yeah, this is everybody. Like everybody is this dirty. I'm still very tame compared to everyone else.
I do feel accomplished. Like when I don't talk about relationships and when I don't talk about sex, I'm like, yes, I did it.
When you write material
Yeah.
that isn't those two things, I mean, that's got to be a pain. Does that piss you off as as a female comic when you're doing in shows and you're like, let's say you're late in the lineup and you're watching like 5, 6 other women go in front of you, and you're like, Jesus Christ, like this premise has been burned 7 times, and yet you guys keep going up and doing it. Does it feel that way?
I guess I noticed that sometimes I'll do a show and I'm like, why has everyone talked about chlamydia? But
Does that happen a lot? God damn, New York, you guys are crazy.
chlamydia, and then sometimes everyone's talked about coke, and I'm like, sometimes I open with this joke that is like, I'm from New York, so I tried coke before I got my first period. I like opening with that,
Yeah.
but I'm like, everyone has talked about coke, so I can't do this.
Now you can't. Now you can't open with it. It's completely burned.
It's burned.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think is kind of like I try to get a little weird now. I feel like that's almost like the only way to stay original is like what are thoughts that I have that no one else is gonna ever fucking think.
Hmm.
And my notebook right now is like it's weird because there are elements of it where if you open it you're like, this person is a serial killer. And then there are other elements where you're like, okay, this is clearly like this is a bit or this is something else. But like, yeah, I mean, for me, I'm like a very much a nothing's off limits comedian. So I try to write, like I try to start from like the most fucked up place, or I try to defend things in current events or the media. Is like, how could you defend this, which is totally indefensible? And I tweeted one the other day that's like a start of a joke that I've just started working on, where I was like, if you're going by Bill and Ted logic, time travel wise, we've either never invented it because we would have already fixed all the things, right? Or everyone that has ever gone back in time to kill Hitler has been swayed. And so it's almost like this weird premise of like, if we have invented time travel, there would already not be Hitler. And then it starts to open up all these other things in your brain of like, wait a minute, maybe Hitler was from the future and he went back to stop something worse. You know what I mean? Like,
Totally,
yeah.
totally.
So I don't know. That's just my brain works in weird fucking ways like that, where I think about it was like, okay, if we're using this time travel logic, then maybe Hitler's the good guy. And then I was like, oh God, this is how people become Nazis. They start thinking crazy shit like this. And, before you know it, it's like you're already down this rabbit hole of like defending Hitler.
Well, I think being original is the most important thing right now. Like I've been thinking a lot about, you have to really hone in that like personal element of the way you think if you want to stand out as a comedian right now. And if you want to have your own personal touch on your writing and your jokes, everyone can write about the same basic shit that's on Twitter unless you put your own spin
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing is like I've always found that the most obvious way to sort of stay unique and original is just to stay talking about yourself or talking about you or just kind of focused on yourself and your own perspective and your own point of view. And when you try to get, I feel like especially when you're new, if you try to get too observational, that's where you get mundane or you get boring, is because you're just making sort of the same observations as everybody else.
That's true. I feel like I cannot do observational fucking comedy at this point.
Well, it's got to be tough in New York too, because there are so many comics and so much of the life experience is the same. Like you're dealing with the same things, the subway and the congestion of the city, and there's just I'm sure like in LA, there's so many LA things that newer comics talk about. I'm sure it's the same in New York, right?
Right, right. There are certain comics that can really have mastered observational comedy and made it funny. And I'm like, how the fuck did they do that? It's an invisible art for sure.
Yeah. Or how did you find that? Like, how did you find that leftover thing to talk about that nobody else has pointed out yet?
Right. Or like, I don't know. I remember when I was just like listening to stand-ups on Spotify, and I listened to like Gary Goldman's thing about fruit salad, and I thought it was hilarious. And I'm like, how the fuck did he make fruit salad funny? Like, that is insane.
Yeah, he's probably, I'd say like him and Sebastian are more than likely the best in terms of like modern observational comics who can kind of take basic things and, still make them funny.
The day that I can make fruit salad funny is the day that like I don't know. I will never be able to have that level of brilliance around those things. I think that my skills are in a different area.
What I guess I asked you what kind of got you into comedy. Was there any sort of, I always find that like the best comedians, a lot of times there are like things in their past or their childhood or whatever that sort of steer them that way. Do you feel like there was anything from your growing up that steered you towards being a comedian, or that sort of planted the seed in your mind that someday you would do it?
Performance was like my life as a kid, as a teenager. I was like obsessed with, I was a theater kid. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. I hate to say it.
Why do you hate to say it? I mean, there are worse things.
Are there?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you seem to have turned out okay. I mean, yeah, got a handful of tattoos and you ride motorcycles. I mean, that's bad if you're a parent from the 1950s. You know what I mean? But like, there are way worse things that you could have turned into from being a theater kid, like an actual actor. No, I'm kidding. I mean, it's funny. Like so many of those people like grow up to be like, I guess the successful theater kids grow up to be insufferable celebrities.
Yes.
And so I think the fact that it steered, like you ended up being a comedian, is probably like, I don't know, 10th down the list of worst things that could have happened from being a theater kid.
Yeah, for sure. I think I was a very, the echo in my ear is distracting me a tiny bit, but it's okay. Sorry. I think I was a theater kid, and in high school I was bullied a lot, and my confidence really got fucked. And I think
what were you bullied over? I'm always curious what people are bullied over.
Everything, just everything. My voice, the way I ran, my clothes, my music.
Well, this is where you went wrong. You ran in high school. See, I always had a note.
No, no, it's like the way. So
I was like, we're running today? No. You check my file. I'm sure I have something on file about that.
No, like the way I ran to like, so I grew up in New York City. The way I would like run to the subway, like we were all like, oh my God, the train's coming, we have to run. And we like ran to the train. We'd like get on the train and be like, "Oh my god, to see Natalie, the way she ran to the subway."
That was their actual voice. That's a real person.
That was the real voice.
That person should have been getting made fun of and bullied. That's what a strange cult. Like, I went to school on the East Coast, but I wasn't like a subway to school kid. But the idea that like you guys are literally running to a train around heroin addicts and murderers, and they're like, "Look, that guy kind of runs like a fag." Like, it's hilarious to me that somebody would actually that kids would still like be surrounded by that kind of chaos and then make fun of the way you're running.
Oh my god. So then I would like run in gym class with my hand over my face. Like it was I would run like this.
That's funny.
But I think that kind of like darkness started to seep into my life. And I veered away from being like a theater kid to still being interested in performing in the arts, but not having that like brightness of a theater kid, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Did the other kids annoy you? Like the other theater kids, were they just like a nuisance, or did you fucking hate them? Like,
At what point?
I mean, at any point, like before that turn, where you're just like, I'm not like these other lunatics.
No, I was like, I love them. Let's
Oh, wow.
sing, baby.
That was you were all in. I always feel like theater culture is like a little cultish. Do you feel like that?
100%.
Yeah, it's like, and these people, like they all hang out together and they all fuck each other, and it's like that. It's just like this weird kind of closed loop cult. I've done, I've only like a couple times have been invited to perform on like variety shows where, it's like in an improv theater, and they're like, you'll do a little stand up, and then we'd love for you to do some like sketches and stuff with us. And you're like, okay, cool. And then you go and rehearse with these people, and you're like, who the fuck are these people? Like, what are you guys do? Like, there is a reason I haven't met any of you anywhere yet, and it's because you are in this weird. It's like that movie, The Village, that M. Night Shyamalan movie. It's like, ugh, what is happening?
It is, yeah. Theater people now, I'm like, they really totally, they irk me now. But I have to admit, until I was in high school, I loved them. I did.
Yeah. At what point was there like an inciting incident that made you completely pivot, where you're just like, I'm not going to do this anymore? Was it like a Carrie moment where they poured pig's blood all over you, or what happened?
You know, I think I just didn't have the confidence to do it anymore. I just like didn't feel like a confident person.
Mm. Well, that's a shame. Well, way to bring us down. No, I'm kidding. Ugh. Well,
I thought this was the darkest hour. Come on.
Yeah, Jesus. I mean, let's not stay away from realism a little bit. What made that happen? Was it just like, did you activate where you became self-aware and you're like, oh, I don't feel like I'm good at this, or I don't like it?
No, when you're like seriously bullied when you're like 14, then your whole sense of self, you're like, I can't do anything. You could be like the most talented person ever, but it just makes you feel like shit.
Yeah. And so you just kind of came out of it sort of like, I don't want to do this because of the hate or the criticism or anything you were dealing with at the time. You couldn't even enjoy it at that point.
I just felt too insecure to partake in it. And then like later I started like taking acting classes that weren't theater. It was just like straight acting. And I started doing like straight acting. And then I feel like that led into comedy.
Yeah. Then, so you make the switch to comedy. How old are you when you do that? 21?
How old am I now? No, 23.
Oh, okay, 23. Okay, so you're 26 now. Or 27. What are you, 27?
I'm 26.
Oh, okay, 26. Cool. So you're still very new. And but you wouldn't know it. I don't feel like you project like a 3-year comic at all. And that's not just me trying to like jerk you off. It's just like some people you can sort of tell their years in their delivery or their style. But I wouldn't say there's any sort of like lack of confidence. I mean, did you feel that immediately restored when you started doing stand-up? Did you start feeling like, oh, this is a place where I can actually feel confident in myself again?
Definitely. And I feel like I understood how to grow with stand-up. Like I understood how to work towards being better. Like I don't mean to sound like a dick, but I fucking worked my ass off. Like there's not a day that I didn't try to go to an open mic or fucking anything. So I liked that with stand up. It was straightforward how you can get better. Just do it. Just get up as much as you can.
Yeah, there's a little bit more of a meritocracy, or almost like an apprenticeship to comedy, where it's like, you know, if you put in your time and hours, you will get better and people will recognize it. So, you know, ultimately, yeah, I think definitely more than acting, right? I mean, I'm sure there are still parts in comedy, you know, for you where you're just like, oh, how the fuck did that person get that versus me? Or like, how did I, you know, we all have those moments, but I think it's far less than acting, right?
Right.
Like there are there are way more moments in that world, I'm sure, in the theater world or the acting world, where you're just like, this seems completely arbitrary or doesn't make any sense, or there's no correlation to hard work equaling success. Whereas with stand up, it's like the only way to get good at it is to do it repetitively and to work at writing and to work at, you know, doing different stuff.
And also, thank you for saying that. That you're very sweet. Thank you for the kind words.
About what?
You said I don't sound like seem like a
no,
three-year
you don't.
comic.
No, not at all. No, if you would have told me you were doing it for 10 years, I would have believed you. But so much of that is just comfort on stage. There's this quality about female comics that I fucking hate. And I'm not a women aren't funny guy, because I think there are some women that are incredibly funny. So I'm not one of those. But like, there is this sort of desperate of like, please like me energy that a lot of female comics have. Or it's like almost show tunesy, where they're obviously performing like, and then I was like this, and it's like, oh, stop presenting your material, just do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, but you don't have that. Like your delivery and everything's very natural. You seem very comfortable on stage.
Thank you.
But
That's
I felt that
sweet.
way. I felt that way early too. Like I did music for a lot of years before I was doing stand up, and so I transitioned from being on stage and you know, playing guitar and being in bands to like doing stand up. So there was no like crowd fear or anything for me in the beginning from being a performer of another kind before that. And so I think once you do that, like once you kind of get over that fear of performing or whatever, then, you know, if you're transitioning into something else that's, you know, another kind of performance, then you don't have to worry about it. Like that. You sort of like get that edge over other comedians very early, because you don't have that, like that sort of fear of being in front of people.
Totally. I think stage presence is such a big part of it. It's your writing and it's your stage presence. That's what it is. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, there are some people that are all stage presence and no writing, and that's not good either. But
No.
but yeah, I mean, I agree. And it's just about comfort. Like you have to feel like you're watching somebody who is comfortable. Like if they're uncomfortable, you're uncomfortable. And then if they're then layering in material that's also going to push you to uncomfortable places,
Then it's
like,
not good.
yeah, it's not going to work at all. Like I found part of the reason I get away with a lot of what I say on stage and I don't get away with it on Twitter is because on stage you can see my big dumb smiling face and you can know that I'm fucking around. Whereas on Twitter, people are just like, this man is a Nazi. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, it's like, it's a whole different medium, right? Of like doing stuff on the internet versus doing it live. And then, you know, how that kind of ebbs and flows and how people react to it. I mean, it's interesting when you were like, I bombed my first time. When did you feel like you first killed? Like, when did you walk off and go, okay, like I executed everything. It went well. I feel good about it. How long before that happened?
I don't have a distinct memory of the first time that happened.
Oh, it hasn't happened yet. That's great.
I mean, no, it's happened. I don't know the first time it happened. I don't know.
Yeah, it's fun, and we all run into those people that are like, I fucking killed, and it's like, yeah, you did okay. It wasn't.
I feel like, you know, it's interesting what you say about being able to hide on stage, because I was actually just thinking about this yesterday. I recently went through a breakup, right? And I feel like okay about it. So I feel like I can talk about it on stage and the audience isn't uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But there are times that I've gone through breakups and I've talked about it on stage and I wasn't okay. So the audience did not laugh.
Yeah, they can tell that you're still sort of raw from it. and it's like a
Right.
little fragile.
So it's very much about like whatever you're feeling, they feel. And I think that's very cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that for sure. And I can definitely tell there are times like when I first started, I did a lot of like all black clubs or nightclubs or bars. And I remember there were times where just sort of like based off the audience or things that happened where I was like, okay, um, what am I like? It would make me maybe a little unconfident or I would be a little unsure about how I was going to open. Because I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna open with this joke, and then I would watch like an audience member just fucking destroy the dude in front of me, or do two people in front of me. And I'm like, oh, and then I would feel a little unsure, and then I would immediately be like, what the fuck am I gonna open with? And then sometimes I would be like, I'll just stick with what I was gonna do, but I would have like a lack of confidence, and the audience would see through that right away, and
Right.
it's like an animal smelling blood, you know what I mean? Where they're just like, oh, we're gonna kill this motherfucker, and then I realized
Yeah.
like, no matter what you're gonna do, you have to like kick them in the mouth with it. And if you do that, you'll be fine. Even if it's like not the right joke or the best joke, you're going to be far better off doing that than, going up and being a little timid or a little trepidatious about like what you're going to open with or what you're going to start with or how you're going to get into it. Because black audiences and Latino audiences, the leash is very, very short. Like it's very short for how far they're going to let you go before they're like, get this motherfucker off the stage. You know what I mean? Like I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen almost instantaneously at a couple of the shows I did. I did like a casino riverboat in Indiana, like Gary, Indiana. It was like an all black show, and the fucking host got booed off the stage. I was like, oh God, this is not going to be a good show at all.
Oh my God. That's insane. Gary, Indiana makes me think of that song. You know that song?
There's
Seeking a musical theater? No?
no,
Okay. Just
no,
forget about it.
no. Tell me.
No, edit it in later. You'll look it up.
Okay, I won't. Oh man. Well, so I mean, you talked about going through breakups and stuff. I mean, it sounds like that's happened quite a bit for you. Is that is that like I don't even remember what that feels like. I've been with the same person now for 10 years, and I'm just like, breakups. What's that? What, you still talk to people?
How do you stay in a relationship for that long? Please tell me.
Well, you give up. you just you just give up. You just go, this is as good as it's ever going to be for me, and then you just go, yeah, I'm done. You just don't. It's just done. It's like I said this on the Babylon Bee podcast where I was like, it's not that like it's perfect. It's not that it's perfect. It's just you just go like, everyone else is way worse than this person, and I can't. It's almost like I can't even. I feel like. Do you ever watch Shawshank Redemption?
I haven't, no.
Yeah, okay, so I feel like I'm institutionalized in the sense like some people have been in prison so long that they would like commit a crime to not go back into the real world because they just don't know how to function, right? Like the outside world is so different from what it was when they went on the inside. And that's how I feel about being in a relationship now, where it's just like, listen, I'm 10 years in and I wouldn't even know what to do with myself out there in the free world. So I'd rather just stay here in prison where I know the terrain, where it's safe.
Well, are you married?
No, but we're practicing. I mean, we've been together for,
We're practicing?
yeah, I was going to say we're practically married. No, I think we're as practiced at being married as you can be.
Why don't you get married?
I mean, we have no assets to protect. That's the real reason. I mean,
Okay.
like, and also it's sort of like an arbitrary thing. Like, my family's all on the East Coast. She doesn't really talk to a lot of her family. And so, it's like, who would we have that ceremony for? Ourselves? Like, there's
Right.
no point to it. So, if we owned a home or, any sort of like a business or something, anything that was like of significant value, we might do it to protect it from the government, but there's just really no point to it.
Yeah.
And also like, I have this very sort of weird feeling about, monogamy and monogamous relationships and things where it's just like, there's such a strange concept of like ownership involved in all of that, where it's just like, if she wakes up tomorrow and is just like, I'm out, like she should be able to do that. And I would never want to create more barriers for her doing that. Like I would never want her to wake up and go, well, I would leave, but we own a house or we have kids or we have all these other things. All the things that kept my parents in relationships way longer than they should have been. And, I would much rather not have those things. So, that there's total freedom. That way, the only way she stays with me is if she wants to be here or if she's also given up.
I like that. I like that. I think, yeah, you only want both people to be in the relationship if they genuinely want to be, not because they feel like they're accountable for something else.
Yeah, exactly. Or they're responsible for you, or, because all that stuff does is breed resentment. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, and so, things are very reciprocal in our relationship. Like she helps out financially. She does, all the things, like everything's very equal between the two of us. She's very supportive. She stuck by me through some real hard shit, and real bad times as well as good times. So, when you find somebody that can like barrel through shit with you and like deal with some real like public fallout, like what people don't talk about with cancel culture so much is like the collateral damage. So, it's like one thing if I tweet something that people don't like and they go after my jobs or they go after my agency or they blow up my production company's email or whatever. But like when it bleeds down to the point where they're reaching out to places that your significant other works and trying to get them fired for being with you, then
Yeah.
it's like, then that shit gets out of control. And so, I'm grateful to her for enduring all that when it happened and enduring it when it inevitably will happen again at some point. You know what I mean? Like if you're, it's pretty obvious. It's so funny. I don't know if you've ever seen this on like my Twitter and stuff, but my show ended 3 years ago. And to this day, if I tweet something that's offensive, people will literally start messaging Food Network and being like, cancel his show, simply because I've left it in IO. And now they're like, so idiots who don't even Google me to see that the show went off the air in 2018 will go, fire him. And it's like, yeah, I'm not there anymore. So good luck with that. And I also want to start putting things in my bio that I never did so that people will start trying to get me fired from jobs I've never even had.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's what we all should do. We should all put like, I am the showrunner of Blackish. Or like, I am the second AD on Insecure. Cancel me. I want to start, I want to start promoting that stuff, and and then people can message a bunch of people that have never heard of me to fire me from jobs I've never had.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I fucking hate cancel culture so much, and I could go on a rant about it, but I feel like it'd be a waste of my breath.
Yeah. Well, as a white woman, that's very divergent for you because cancel culture seems to be white women's shit. They love it. They can't get enough of it.
I think it's kind of similar to like if you go on Instagram and someone has a nice quote in their bio, they're an asshole. And it's the same thing. It's like if you're posting about the time that you volunteered at a fucking homeless shelter, you're a piece of shit because you need to prove to the world that you're not a piece of shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I've always said that like people who, people who do that stuff in public, or do it very publicly are probably not doing it from an honest place. You know what I mean? It's like the Kylie Jenner thing. She's like, very like her and her sisters and stuff were sort of very vocal politically during the election cycle. And then like her makeup artist gets into a car accident and it's like 60 grand for the surgery or the medical bills or whatever. This woman's worth like $900 million. And she's like, we got a GoFundMe going for my makeup. The person who literally makes me fuckable, so that you guys give me all your money. She's hurt and I could just pay for it myself, but why would I? I'll let you schlubs do it. And it's like, and the fucked up thing is people will do it. But then, in 6 months, she's gonna have some charity that you're supposed to believe that she cares about when she had the opportunity to take care of some. It's like same thing with like Lady Gaga's dog walker. Did you see that story? Like this guy gets shot walking her dogs and she's like, $500,000 for the dogs. No questions asked is the first headline. Not, I'm going to take care of this guy for the rest of his life. Just get me my dogs back. How's $500,000 sound?
Yeah, it really it's awful. And on top of that, I feel like it creates like a further divide. There's no conversation. Like if you disagree with something someone says, you don't need to isolate them further. I think it's just like a nasty divide that is spreading hate like within this country, and it makes me sad.
Yeah. It's and it's I just think it's like people who, I think the whole troll sort of cancel culture mentality is weird. Like there's definitely a psychology behind it. There's definitely a I don't think what you do is special, or I don't think you're special or should be able to do it, so fuck you, and I'm going to make sure that you can't, or I'm going to make sure that you don't. You know what I mean? And
But
so
don't you feel like people also do it to get followers for themselves?
yeah, of course. They're trying to like hijack your platform, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, "Oh, if I dunk on this person,
I'll get all of their following. All of their
yeah.
followers will look at me. I feel like it's twisted. Like they're literally just trying to get attention. Whatever. It's a waste of my
Yeah,
breath.
well, it's
But
the same. It's the same thing with like hecklers in a show or
mhm.
a chat room, for instance. It's the same thing with that, because people literally think like, I'm gonna fucking get the comedian. I'm gonna say some shit, and then like, what does this person think in their head? The audience is gonna hoist you up on their shoulders and carry you around and suck your dick in the parking lot. Like that never happens. You're gonna get walked
Yeah.
out by security, and you're gonna look like a fucking idiot, and then you're gonna shoot up the post office in a month.
No, it's seriously it creates such a divide between people. Like I would be happy to sit down and have a conversation with anyone that disagrees with something that I say. I just don't want to be antagonized.
Yeah, I mean, some of it comes with the territory. Like you have to know that, people are going to, try to shit on what you do. If what you're doing is significant in any way, there are going to be people that don't like it. You know what I
Of
mean? Like,
course.
or that have to vocalize that they don't like it. And it's just part of it. It just comes with the territory. I mean,
Yeah.
it's if it didn't matter at all, it would be ignored. It wouldn't be, people wouldn't be protesting it or trying
Right.
to, interfere with what you're doing. So, it's
It's a sign that you're doing something right in a way.
yeah, I mean, and it's also like, if you have to think of it this way, like if what I'm doing sucks so much and you're spending all day commenting on it, what does that say about you?
Yeah.
Like, dude, like it's one thing if I'm doing a thing or if I'm doing stand up or whatever and people don't like it, but if like all you're doing is commenting on it, then that's even worse, right? Like go find something you enjoy. It's like, as much as I like dark comedy, I don't think I'm a dark person. And that's one thing I wanted to bring up with you, because I kind of felt like I watched you on what's the garbage podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because like you didn't really have like this tragic story of a childhood or something, even though they tried to like paint it that way. But you didn't really have like this tragic upbringing that sort of like steered you to comedy. It seemed like for the most part you were a pretty normal kid growing up. And and then you find your way into comedy or whatever else. And for me, it was kind of the same thing. Whereas like, I didn't have like this weird, tragic, dark, upbringing or anything like that. Like my parents divorced very young, which is, I think, kind of normal from my age group or generation. But, like I'm generally a pretty positive person. Like I don't spend time on things I don't like, which that's a weird thing that people do. Like they obsess on spending time on things that they hate. And it's like, what
Hmm.
a fucking miserable existence. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make sense to me to invest your time in shit that you don't enjoy. You know what I mean? And I think it's like a combination of things. People don't have purpose in their own lives. They don't even have hobbies that they enjoy. They don't have, friends or loved ones or people to spend time with. So it's like, that they get obsessed with other things or they lock in other things. I mean, do you find it's the same way for you? Do you think you're more of a like a positive energy person?
I think I'm a very sweet and positive person, and it's interesting because I think I'm a really good person. I think I have tattoos, I have this whole motorcycle thing, but I am a very gentle person.
Yeah. Yeah. And um,
I mean, there's this thing, anytime I find out someone's a comic, I think in my head, okay, what happened to them? Right?
yeah,
Like
that's like the default. That's the default.
right?
Like what's fucked up about this person?
What yeah, but And there are different levels, and there also I have done a lot of like I have been in therapy since I was 16. Like
Yeah,
I
I
have
want to talk about that because by the way, you snuck that in on the Garbage Podcast and nobody said anything. And I was like, challenge her on her therapy. She said therapist and nobody said anything.
but I think doing that work on yourself, it's like you can have any type of obstacle in your life, and if you can work through it, then you don't need to be bound into that darkness, or you also don't need to I'm a very open person about my life, but there are also things that I haven't evolved that I'm not gonna just fucking share on YouTube for like views and likes, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you have a pretty positive outlook on therapy. I guess I don't. But I don't do it. So, I mean, like, I guess, how do you feel like it's benefited you? How do you feel like it has, I mean, you said you've been doing it since you were 16. Was it your parents splitting up that kind of got you into that, or that led you there? Or was there something else? Was it the bullying?
No, I have really bad anxiety. I have OCD. I have
Oh,
really bad
okay.
OCD. And when I was 16, I said to my parents, I was like, this is so bad. I like can't concentrate in school. I can't focus. I need to like go on meds or something. So
And did you?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there's the end of that story.
And it was
Um,
great.
yeah. And then the therapy was part of that, or part of the treatment.
Yeah, I have the same therapist. So
Oh, wow. Talk about fucking job security. Get them while they're young.
no, you know what? I haven't seen him every week for that long, but like we've
Yeah.
been in contact, and he's so supportive. It feels really good to have like this person that like every time I feel doubt about comedy, he's like, no. He's like, you're fucking doing this. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be good to have somebody in your corner that's kind of pep talking you and doesn't really have any angle. I guess the difficult thing for me is like, I'm such a skeptic from the perspective of like, well, this person is taking money from me and they're going to continue to take money from me. So I've always been like, I don't see there ever being sort of like an organic, place of completion, right? It's like a thing that's designed to never be done, financially speaking. And
Mhm.
so, it's like, unless you're sort of committed to it being a forever part of your life, I don't know. I just always feel like it's sort of every time I see like therapists on television shows or movies, they're always like, all right, well, we'll talk about this in our next session, another $200 away from now. And, so for me, I've always felt like it just seems like a racket, and it's very tough for me to feel like it's very tough for me to trust that person would ever be trying to steer me towards anything other than the next visit.
Well,
Like,
I do feel like there are there are talk therapists that I've had that have been like, I feel like we've worked through this. Do you feel like we've worked through this? And like have said, like, I think we're done. And
yeah.
I think that there are therapists that do that. And, if you're working through a specific issue, or you feel like you're specifically in a dark place and then you find a place of stability, then there are people that say, okay, I think we've worked through this. And I think you don't need to come in
Mm-hmm.
unless you want to.
Yeah, I've never seen that. So it warms my heart to know that it's ever happened ever. But that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. But then, so is your therapist a different kind? You said there are people that do that, and then is yours different? Is yours sort of more like a life partner?
No, I mean, there's like talk therapists and there's like psychiatrists. So I think with meds, it's kind of on you. You're like, do I want to be on
Got
meds
it.
or do I not want to be on meds?
Got it. I see. So it's a different thing.
Yeah.
Do you find like the meds help you creatively, or do you feel like they hurt you creatively? Have you ever experienced like trying to do comedy or write comedy off of them, or have you been on them since you've started doing
There
stand-up?
was a year that I didn't take antidepressants and I had panic attacks like every fucking day. So yeah, we're good.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. That would not make comedy fun or easy or any of that. Or even living in New York. I don't know how people with anxiety live in New York without being on medication.
Yeah, I think it needs to be normalized more, honestly. I actually don't talk about this on podcasts at all. So
Oh, well, we're trudging into new territory.
here we go. But I do think that it needs to be normalized more. Like it's I feel like female comics especially will talk about meds and they'll be like as like a punchline and they'll be like, and my Zoloft. Ha ha ha. But
Yeah.
I don't think it should be talked about like that. I think it's like it's okay to fucking it's okay to deal with your mental health. It's
Wasn't it
not
isn't it
what
weird isn't it weird how like I'm not somebody who drinks or anything, and it's not like I'm puritanical about it. I just don't. But isn't it weird how much like getting fucked up and drinking and doing drugs or coke or heroin or whatever is sort of glorified, but doing
right.
prescription like being on prescription drugs is considered dorky or nerdy or something to be embarrassed about. It's
Right. Like I feel like if I don't really drink at all or do anything, but I feel like if I were to get fucked up with my friends, that would be fine. If I were but if I am to tell a friend like, "Hey, yeah, like I take this antidepressant," it's embarrassing. And I don't like that.
yeah,
When they're both coping mechanisms, you know?
yeah, and I guess I would just be like, well, don't feel that way, but I can't just tell you not
No,
to.
of course.
But yeah, but it's like, but it is weird that people kind of put you in that place, or at least that you're made to feel like that's sort of embarrassing or weird to talk
Right.
about. But it's really not. I mean, it's easy for me to say it shouldn't be because it's not my thing, but I don't know. I don't view it that way. I don't view it as like, it's no different than people telling you that their supplements are important or that their vitamins are important or that
Or at least smoke with
their fucking diet is important. There's some people like, I went vegan and I've never felt bad. And it's like, you're like, I take something to take, to like, so that I don't have panic attacks every day. And they're like, shouldn't do that, bro. You're like destroying your body. And you're like, yeah, it's not that. It's no different than what you're doing, but okay.
or like stoners, you know? I feel like weed is kind of an antidepressant. But I will say I feel like one reason that I don't talk about it is like I don't want to victimize myself in any way. And I feel
I
like
get
being
it.
being able to talk about it without while empowering yourself is like a very I feel like I really need to think about how I can frame it in a way that's empowering and it's not like self-pitying in any way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think just like, I don't know, it's kind of hard. Like, I guess it's kind of hard for me to think of as a comedian, like how you would do that, because it's also tough to like, I almost feel like to set out to make something empowering is tough too, because then it almost seems contrived or like
Right.
pandering or weird or whatever. Like then it's like, okay, well, are you doing that now? It's like almost like it has the adverse effect of you try to make it empowering, but if it
Yeah.
seems too premeditated, then it actually seems like worse. It has the opposite effect where
Yes.
people either think of you as victimizing yourself or trying to hold yourself out on a pedestal. So it's kind of tough. Like, but as with everything, and I haven't always been smart about this myself, but with everything, it's like you got to put it into the work. And when people have told me that in the past, they've been right. Like I've had people be like, yeah, just put it into your material, put it into the content, and it will work itself out organically. And if you're doing it the right way, people respond to it the way that you want them to. But it's easier said than done. Like that takes time, and it takes, it's sort of like, how do I make this funny in a way that, people can relate to it and not pity me or not feel bad about it or whatever. And I think the biggest way to do that with anything is just in how you present it yourself or whatever. Like, it's funny. Like I do a lot of material about sort of like, you know, being okay being overweight or being okay, you know, sort of like not like sort of rejecting the traditional like this is what handsome is or this is what like I don't care. I just don't care. It's like it's not interesting to me. Like if believe me, if my self-worth were wrapped up in being some sort of Terminator fuck machine, I'd never leave the gym, but it's just never been that way for me. And I think so much of like how you normalize it is just in how you present yourself and how you carry yourself. So like, and that takes time to figure out how to do that on stage because especially early, we're concerned about like, does this kill and does it make me look cool? And I think once you get to a point as a comedian where you stop caring about whether or not something makes you look cool, that's when you do your best work. Like I stopped caring about looking cool or being. I remember I used to be like, what jacket am I going to wear on stage? Like I cared that much to the point where I was like, what am I going to wear that's going to like maybe I'll have a mohawk. I had a mohawk for a while. I wore like Sean John tracksuits on stage early on, where it's like, I'll be the white guy who gets black culture and I'll make sure everybody knows it. Like, I had all of these sort of contrived ideas of like how I was going to be cool, and none of that matters. Like, it's so stupid. It's just such a dumb thing to care about, is like presenting yourselves. Just I'm an idiot. Be an idiot. Like, this is what you get. And, I think the more sort of like organic or natural you're about it, the better it's received. And then you have the freedom to kind of open up about different things, about, anxiety or depression or whatever you're dealing with.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I used to I similarly used to be like, oh, I have a show tonight that a lot of people are going to be at. I'm going to wear this, and I do worse when I wear something nice. I do the best when I wear a fucking sneakers, jeans, and a sweatshirt. That is when I fucking kill.
Right. Like when there's really little thought or energy put into it. And by the way, you're not the only one to have ever done that. I can't tell you how many times I've done a show. Like, I used to do Bringers are really big in LA. And when I first moved to LA in 2009, I did a lot of Bringer shows. And there were a lot of, like, similar to your story, like actresses who are getting into comedy and they're like in their first few months, and they would go and they would wear like a full dress, and you're like, oh, this is not going to go well for you. And then, they're just bombing in a dress has to be the worst fucking thing that anyone can ever experience, because it's like, you can't even pretend that you're not trying, because your outfit is like, this is me trying. You know what I mean? So if you're eating shit in a dress, by the way, I'm going to wear a dress on Friday's show. So I've decided now. But bombing in a dress
you're not
is like,
comfortable. That's the thing. It's like, well, see, the thing is, some people that's like comfortable for them to wear a dress. Some people that's like their everyday. I don't know. My style personally is like, I've never been like a dress up kind of person.
Yeah.
So I'm not comfortable in heels. Like, I feel like not myself. Some people might, So it's like, whatever makes you feel the most like you is how you're going to do the best.
Yeah. I prefer to wear an apron, and only that.
Yeah.
That's how I most feel like me.
I prefer to be naked on a motorcycle.
That's your vibe. I grew up on motorcycles. I spent a lot of time on them as a kid. My parents, my mom and my stepdad, from like age like 13 on. That's maybe earlier than that. But like the summer I was 13 was like the biggest summer, where we went on the rides and we went camping with all the bikers and stuff. I did that for like an entire summer. There are pictures of me. I'll find one and send it to you. But there are pictures of me with like my denim vest that has all my patches in it, my colors, if you will. I had little teenage colors that I wore. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. And I had like a fucking do-rag that I would wear under my helmet. I was on the back of a motorcycle for like an entire summer, which in hindsight, as a 13-year-old boy on the back of another man's motorcycle, it's amazing I came out of that heterosexual. It's very shocking. But I was into the leather and the fucking, I was like, this is me. And I could name like every Harley ever invented up until like 1999 or whenever that would have been.
Yes.
So like I knew bikes, and that was like my thing. And then I just like a year later grew out of it. I started playing music, and I didn't give a fuck about motors.
That was me when I was 13, Natalie. Who you are now? Me at 13.
Yeah, no, I grew out of it at 30. Yeah, I was like, I'm done with this. Now I'm a punk musician, right? Like, it was listen, my stepdad at the time was like in his mid to late 30s, and that dude never grew out. Like, that's who he is. But
yeah,
you go through those. Listen, you're not a theater kid anymore, right? You grew out of that. So
no, I'm just me. I'm growing out of everything.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was it was a fun summer for sure, because you're just like riding around the Midwest and going camping in different places. And like, motorcycle groups are very much like families. Like, it became like this big, like, I remember my birthday that summer, it was like all bikers at it. And there was kind of like a fun, when you're 13, like being part of a fucking motorcycle group is pretty cool. Like, it's pretty fucking badass to a 13-year-old boy to be like, I'm fucking hanging out with outlaws. You know what I mean? But But it was like it was like that was how some kids have like a cowboy phase. Mine was like a biker phase. Like I went through that where I was like, I'm fucking.
Dude, I had a Yankees phase. My
Did you?
Neopet's name was Matsui Kid 11 or Matsui Kid 55. That's his number.
Oh
I
wow.
had a fucking Yankees phase. That was my
So you were like a 13-year-old kid wearing like jerseys and shit.
not that, but before 13. But
Oh
yeah,
wow. Okay. Oh, so you were like full jerseys, ball cap. Like
no,
I'm
not
into
that.
baseball.
For like a hot minute. Yeah, I don't know why. I'm all dad. Do you like me now?
Oh, I see. There you go.
No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding. I'm kidding.
Do you have a good relationship with your dad?
I do, and he likes the Mets, so that was a total joke.
No. But that's an interesting thing. I always ask that question because I've always found that like the women I get along with the most, not just in like my relationships, but friendships and everything else, they all have good relationships with their dads.
Yeah.
And the ones that are fucking unbearable to deal with do not. And it's such a like a finite thing that is so predictable. It's like to some degree, it's always a factor. Like it's always a factor if a girl has a terrible relationship with her father, it sort of manifests in so many parts of her personality, so many parts of her just the way she interacts with people, not just men, but people in general, the way she presents herself, the things she's interested in, versus the flip side. I feel like women who have good relationships with their fathers, it presents itself the same way, but just I think, much healthier. And I also think that women have good relationships with their dads have, for the most part, a better sense of confidence or self-assuredness, where it's sort of like you're more like, this is me. If you don't like it, go fuck yourself.
I did always feel like I was so close with my dad growing up that I felt like it was I didn't have that thing when I was in high school of like he's a guy, I don't know how to talk to him because I felt like guys and girls were the same because of that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, that's I think that's healthy. That's a good thing. It's so weird. Like I don't know. I never had the feeling I didn't know how to talk to either of my parents. Like they both, but I guess if I ever had something to tell them that they wouldn't have liked or wouldn't have agreed with, like that might have been a different situation. But I think before any of that ever came up, I was much older. You know what I mean? But like I can only imagine the only things I could think of that like would have been hard to talk to my dad about was like if I was gay, then that might have been, he was pretty vocal how much he didn't want that to happen when I was a kid.
Huh.
It was almost like I joke about this sometimes. It was almost like I felt like my dad tried to put up like gay guardrails around me to make sure that like there were no possibilities of that happening. And I just think back to like different experiences I had as a kid where my dad would be like, he'd be like, don't change. You don't change in front of other boys, like in the locker room or whatever for sports. He'd be like, you go in the stall, you change by yourself. Like you don't do that in front. And now I look back at it as an adult and I'm just like, oh, this guy was afraid I was going to start sucking dick. Like
Why was he so afraid of that?
homophobic.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe that's how they did it when he grew up. I don't know.
Hmm.
My dad's 80, so and he was in the Navy, so who knows how
Hmm.
many times he found himself in a gay situation that he
Right.
didn't expect. So he's like, this is how
Right.
they. I feel like he was trying to trying to like protect me from the times that maybe he experienced it when he was younger or something. Who knows?
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, it's weird. Who knows? But it was so funny of like, um, like in his mind, that was the worst thing I could have been. You know
Huh.
what I mean? Like, and I guess that makes sense when all of your brothers and sisters have already dealt with drug addiction or alcohol addiction, and everybody works blue collar jobs and nobody really went to college. And so you're just like, yeah, I mean, I guess, if this is the worst thing that could happen, or if all these other things have happened, at least they're not gay. I don't know. I don't know what he was holding on to
How many
with that
siblings do you
hope.
have?
I have an older brother on my dad's side and then two older sisters on my dad's side. And then I had an older brother where we had the same mom, different dads, but he just died back in May.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, he battled with alcoholism his entire life and it catches up to you after a while, and had a little bit, like, had some bad, he was also really big into motorcycles and stuff, had a couple bad accidents, started to, um, was like on painkillers for a while, and then had some trouble getting off of them. And like, if you already have, one of the things a lot of people don't realize is like, if you already have a bad liver from drinking, and then later in life you start taking like opioid painkillers, the damage that those do to your liver is so accelerant that, I mean, they basically said like before he passed away, that he had the liver of somebody like twice his age. And so, he was 43 and passed away in May, like 2 months, like, so newly 43. He had just turned 43 and passed away, from complications related to like liver failure. So, it's like, it's a tough thing to, to think about in terms of like just being that young. Like, that's 5 years away from me now, and that's right around the corner. But yeah, so naturally, like, because of that happening recently, I spent a lot of time this past year with my mom. She's been hanging out with us for a while, and then she actually just went home a couple weeks ago. And yeah, but on my dad's side, like, same thing. Everyone has battled different drug addictions or alcoholism in the past or whatever. And so that's one of the main reasons I don't drink. I have drank, had drinks and stuff at different times, but honestly, like, I think because I didn't do it at a young age at all, and then waited so long, like, my digestion can't handle it. Like, I mean, I'll never forget. I was hanging out with some friends. This is probably like 10 years ago now. And they're like, just have a beer with us. And I was like, all right, I'll have a beer. And then literally, like, my asshole was dry heaving for like 2 hours because my stomach just couldn't handle. I had like a Newcastle, like a really dark beer, and I couldn't fucking deal with it at all. And I was just like, no, this is fine. So it was like, I've gone this long my entire life. At the time, I was like my late 20s. Like, I've gone this long without being a drinker. I might as well just not start.
Totally. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. That's really awful.
Yeah, I mean, it's just part of life. I mean, to be honest, it was less difficult for me, going through it, obviously, than my mom. The more difficult part was watching my mom go through it, because she was staying with us when we found out. And so I always tell people, like, one of the things that is impossible to imagine is what it's like to watch your parents lose a child.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it's like, there's obviously been like tough times throughout my entire life. And you go through those times where you're like, maybe I don't want to be here anymore. Maybe maybe I'm ready to check out. And then when you actually see your parents react to what it's like to lose a kid, you really don't ever have another suicidal thought in your life, because, well, if you do, you're an incredibly selfish, fucking horrible person, because there is nothing more catastrophic than watching your parents lose a kid. It is the hardest thing I've ever had to experience. And so, like, it was, that was brutal. But from my perspective, like, this didn't happen overnight. Like, this has been building since we were, he's 6 years older than me. It's been building since I was a kid. And, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like you sort of could see it happening, many, many years. So I wasn't surprised. And because I wasn't a drinker and he was a very heavy drinker and stuff, we just weren't very close. We lived in different parts of the country for the last, 15 years or so. And so, I didn't really see him a lot or spend a lot of time with him. So we weren't very close. And then my parents split up when I was 7. So we didn't live together for a lot of my childhood either. So we were kind of estranged, throughout different points of our childhood, and then definitely through adulthood, because we were just into very different things. But, the hardest part of it was watching my mom go through it, not particularly like losing him myself. And, yeah, it's just, that's that kind of changed my whole perspective. I joke about this now, but it's like, it puts a lot of pressure on you to stay alive when you watch how bad it is for your parents to lose a kid, because you're like, oh fuck, now I'm the only one left. Now I gotta survive. Like, forget about making it. Now I just gotta live. Like, I gotta stay alive.
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, like, it does put a lot of pressure on you to not die, and so it's so funny. I'll like eat something, like, oh, I got like a chest pain. My mom's like, you better get that looked at. You better check that. It's like, no, it's indigestion. I'm sure it's fine. Like, I'm one of those people. I never want to go to the hospital. I never want to. If I got shot, I'd be Googling, like, how do you treat a bullet wound from home without going to the, like, I just don't, I hate the fucking hospital. I hate doctors.
Huh.
And so, it's like one of those things where, I'll like try to treat everything from home and that type of stuff. So, when it comes to like health stuff, losing a kid turns your parents into like a total hypochondriac. And then when you're like me and you never want to go to the doctor, it's not a good combination.
It's interesting because I'm an only child, so I've felt that pressure my whole life.
Yeah, where there's like, you can't die, but also you'll never get to see what it's like if you did.
True. That's true.
Yeah, that's a fucking horrible, gut-wreshing thing to experience for sure.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, and you'll never have to, because if it's you won't be around to see it. So, and they say being an only child isn't a good thing. Yeah, but I'm sure, and they don't have kids with anyone, like they don't have kids from other marriages or anything.
I have 3 stepbrothers, but they're not half brothers. They're stepbrothers.
Yeah, they're just through marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's not even the same thing.
Yeah.
Or it's they don't care about them. They're somebody else's responsibility.
Well, they care about them, but it's not the same as it being like your own child.
Yeah, I would imagine. I don't care about other people's children ever. There's no, even when I dated women that had kids, I was just like, these are just fucking strangers to me. There's no amount of spending time with somebody else's kids. When people are like, I love them like they're my own children. No, you don't. You can't. Just doesn't work.
There's one kid I lived in LA for a year, and I nannied this one kid, and I still think about him. I love him.
Really?
But I think like I'm a very, like, I think I was put on this planet to be like a mom.
You think so?
I do. Yeah.
Are you a very mothering person?
I am. Yeah.
Are you a fixer?
No.
No.
I'm not. I just, like, for example, like I have a dog, and like my whole day is structured around my dog.
Okay. Elaborate.
Well, I just make sure like he gets to go to the park for like 45 minutes a day. Like I just love him. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm just a very like loving, nurturing I don't know. Maybe it's my hormones.
So you have dog hormones? I don't understand.
No, I have like I'm ready to have a fucking child.
Oh, you mean because of like where you're at age-wise, biologically, your body is like, we don't have a baby, so let's make this a baby.
Yes, like, yeah, I'm ready to have a fucking child.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've never had that moment. I've never been like, I'm ready to go. Like, I don't know. Some people are like, you'll get there eventually. And I don't know. I'm 38. My dad had me when he was 41. And then I was like the kid who had an old dad growing up.
My dad had me at 42.
Yeah, there you go. So, and then like, that was never fun. It was never fun having the old dad growing up who's just like, yeah, I'll drop you off. That was fine. I got dropped off for everything. There was never, the only way my dad was ever going into a place to meet is if there was people he wanted to fuck. Like if there was a woman in there that he was like, oh, she's got good tits. Then he would go in, and he would try to fuck like a teacher or somebody, but no, there was no, at any point where my dad was not single, I was getting dropped off. He was just, I'll drop you off. There was no going in to mingle or chat with people or any of that nonsense. My dad was after my parents divorced, my dad was pretty laser focused on playing music and getting pussy. And then he got with who's my stepmom now when I was like 13. So from like 7 to 13, he was on the dick slinging warpath. And then at 13, he settled down with the woman who's been his wife now for many, many years. And, so
the dick slinging warpath.
Yeah. We've all been there. Mine lasted about 15 minutes in my 20s. And then, beyond that, I've been good.
I cannot believe the same person for 10 years. That is so impressive.
It's not. It's really not. It's impressive in the sense that she's still here. I don't know. I guess that's impressive, but no. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like I've always said this. I think if you are with somebody that you would be friends with if you weren't romantically involved with them, that's a big part of it. Like we actually enjoy hanging out with each other.
Right. Right. Everyone says you got to be friends first.
Well, we were friends for like 6 months beforehand, and then we sort of like ended up dating through attrition because we just found that like we hated everything about other people, and every time we would be annoyed with the people we were dating, we would just come hang out together, and then it just sort of grew from there. So yeah, it's and then so it was like process of elimination. We're like, you're not as fucking horrible as everybody else, so I'll pick you. It's not that complicated though. I mean, it's just, again, it's got to be somebody you enjoy. Like if you want, it's like when people say you got to be friends first, I think it's very simple as this is, can you stand that person if you take fucking out of the equation altogether? Like if you could want to be around a person every day without fucking them, then I think you'll be fine. Then I think that relationship has legs.
That's a good point. Because
eventually you're not going to want to fuck them anymore. You're going to be disgusted by them. They're going to be disgusted by you. It's going to go from the point of like, where you're like, I want to suck your dick in the car on the way home to like, ugh, can you change your shirt? Some of your beard dandruff is on your shirt and you're making dinner. And I don't want any part of you touching anything that's going anywhere near my body. And then that becomes your existence. And that's fun too. So yeah, if you can just sort of preview that part before you get with somebody, then you're good to go.
Then you're okay.
Then you're set. Do you have anything exciting coming up that you want to plug other than our show Friday together? I'm looking forward to it.
I'm very excited for our show Friday, and I want to plug this magazine, Stag, a magazine that I am on the cover of, and I have a spread in, which I'm super excited about. Just came out a few days ago, and you can find it at thestagmag.com.
Your fans are very pumped about this. They've been sharing it incessantly. And you even got fan art for it already. I was like, that's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like people painting it. Like nobody paints me. Well, actually, somebody did paint me recently on a fucking mural somewhere, and it was very unflattering. They're probably in this chat right now, but but it was.
Is there a chat? I don't see a chat. I can't see it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you can't. I thought you could, but maybe you can't.
Oh, there's a chat. Oh my God, there's a whole chat.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Oh, you've blocked so many people. Are they saying
I've had to.
things?
Yeah. They're just all trolls.
Oh my God. Wow. Yeah. I didn't see this chat the whole time.
Yeah. Well, it's probably for the best. So yeah.
It is for the best. I was wondering, are you texting someone?
No. I'm just going in here and like blocking people who are being obnoxious.
Wow. You've blocked so many people.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of not fans. Is that a thing? Can I get famous for having the most not fans?
Yeah, of course.
That's pretty great. Again, that's it's a fun way to spend your time, I guess. But no, I think it's cool. The mag. I just saw the cover. I didn't see. Is it like an online thing or is it like print?
It's print. There is partial nudity that is you can already see online, which is why everyone's going insane.
Oh,
but yeah, it's print. And there's a banner and a poster. Everyone, yeah.
I did think it would be funny. One of my childhood friends is coming to hang out with me this weekend, and we're gonna like do the whole tour together, the whole traveling and everything else.
Cool.
We get into New York Thursday morning, and then I'm doing a podcast Thursday afternoon, and then obviously the show Friday. But I did think it would be funny. I was like, Sean, I should have you like totally be like a fanboy to Natalie and be like, and bring a printed copy of the fucking book and be like, I sign this. But just because I want to watch him be embarrassed doing that.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't work now because it's one of those things.
It's too late for him to get it in the mail.
Yeah, and you also can't premeditate like a bit like that. Like
right now, I know about it.
Yeah, exactly, and it wouldn't be funny. It would just be. But the other thing too is like I wouldn't want it to make you feel weird. Like I want to make him feel stupid. I wouldn't want to make you feel stupid. Does that make sense? I want to make fun of my fucking dumb friend.
Yeah.
But you like that's weird when you're trying to coordinate a prank of like I want to embarrass the fuck out of him.
You know what? At
now
this
maybe.
point, nothing could make me feel fucking weird. You don't know the shit that I deal with.
Oh God. Well, this is the thing I can imagine is like, I'll say this. I've told people this before. So like, there's this weird sort of like snowballing of a small microcosm of gay fans that I have from when I did the Food Network show. And I'll occasionally like lob out some just like, oh, this is funny. Like, let me put a thirst trap out, right? For my gay fans. And I'll post like a picture of me in the nude cooking in the kitchen from behind wearing an apron, which should be disgusting, right? Like people should be like, oh, this is awful. But the responses I get to that from gay guys is fucking hilarious. I'll just get like, if you like that, check out this. And then I just get like 10 dick pics in Instagram DM. And so if I get that, then I can only imagine what you get on a fucking daily basis. It's got to be horrific.
It's I'm pretty numb to it, but some people do get to me at times.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Where they're just like too creepy.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't want to give anyone the secret key to how to get to me, so I'm not going to say it.
Yeah. Definitely not. Definitely don't want to do that. Keep that to yourself.
But yeah.
Yeah, I can only like it's so funny like I think I went through that for like the first probably like 6 months of my show, and I just started like messaging all my female comedian friends, and I was just like, I had no idea that this is what it's like at all. And I'm sure I'm getting a fraction. You know what I mean? I'm getting a very small fraction of the creepiness that women get.
Yeah.
From a very fringe set. And by the way, all the gay guys who want to fuck me look just like me, which makes me believe that like 90% of homosexuality is just extreme narcissism of guys who are just like, I just want to fuck myself, bro. What's wrong with that? So I don't even think they're gay. I just think they love themselves. And like, if I could fuck somebody that's me, but on the flip side, that means I get dick pics from guys who look like me, which is like, you know,
you could at least get something nice to show your partner, you know?
Yeah, be like, yo, where's my diesel? Where's my Terminator fuck machines? I want some shredded guys jumping into my DMs with fucking 12-inch hard hogs. So I can at least be like, oh, see that? We did this is a funny story. We did a game show audition one time where it was like a pilot show. So I don't know if you've ever done these where you like go participate in the filming of a pilot. But it was a local producer that we know, and she had us come in for Celebrity Name Game. We've done like game shows and stuff with her. And so they were like, we want you to come as a couple to help us test this new concept. And it was hosted by Bill Bellamy. And so we went in, and what it is it's like 20 people that are in couples together, but the contestant has to figure out who's with who. And they have to decide like which couples are together without knowing anything about the people. And they ask people questions to figure out who's together or try to figure out who's together. It's a really great idea for a show.
Cool, yeah.
And it was kind of like a Love is Blind mentality of, you know, like we're going to show you that the people that are together are absolutely like polar opposites. And that was obviously why they picked us, because my girlfriend's very pretty and I'm very this. And so nobody would ever put us together. But the funny thing is the contestants thought way deeper than what it was. So they're thinking, who are the least likely people to be together? Like they assumed that we were trying to trick them. And so the very first out of the gate contestant, they have to pick two people that they think are a couple, and then they have to ask them questions to decide if they actually are a couple or not. Mm-hmm. And then we as contestants are encouraged to try to like lie to get them to think like we might be a couple. And the first thing they do is they take me and they take a dude, I shit you not, looks like Michael B. Jordan. The hottest fucking black guy in the room they put with me. And I was like, I couldn't stop blushing. I was so flattered that they thought that this dude was fucking me. I was like, oh my, well, thank you. I just looked back at all the women like, fuck you. They think it's me. They think he's fucking me. And I've never been more proud of a moment in my entire life than that moment. And I flaunted, and then of course he was with like the prettiest blonde-haired white girl in the room, And then when they put us together, the contestant was like, oh, of course, Jesus Christ, should have just let my racism steer the decision making. I would have gotten all of these right. But it was so funny. There was never a more proud moment in my life than being paired with the sexiest 6'5" black guy in the room and just being able to turn around to all the other women and go, how's it feel not to be chosen?
Oh my God, that is amazing.
It was the most fun. It was the most fun. And then I became friends with that couple because of it. And then, you know,
and you had a threesome.
Yeah, no, dear God. Yeah, the only way they would have invited me to a threesome with them is to cater it, for sure. Like, you can come cook for us while we sport fuck each other. Oh my God, I can't even imagine the workload. I would not be able to handle him or her. They both seemed like very fit people.
Too much.
Yeah. I could have been furniture that they fucked on. Like they could have laid me down as some sort of beanbag scenario, and then they could have fucked each other. Yeah, it would have been nice to just have been included in that, but no. And I'm sad that show will never see the light of day. I should email that producer and be like, how do we make this happen?
Yeah, come on.
It was so much fun. And the funny thing about that too is Bill Bellamy is there, and it's like he's like pilot hosting, and he has like 3 writers in the room to like help him come up with one-liners. And I'm like, dude, we're in a warehouse right now testing a concept, and you brought writers along? Like this is crazy. But yeah, it was funny. And I had met Bill at Last Comic Standing auditions back in like 2008 or whatever, like forever ago. So it was, I had to remind him, because it had been so long since I had, had met him the first time, what the scenario was. And then he remembered that. And then like for the rest of the day, couldn't stop laughing at the fact that they paired me and this other dude together. And we both had we were both there with very attractive women, and both of the women were talking to each other like, how are we supposed to feel about this? That not only do they think that our boyfriends are gay, but that they're together. You know what I mean? Like it's got to be a weird psychological thing for any woman to go through, for sure.
Totally. That's hilarious.
And you have your own magazine too, right?
I do. It's called Classy Trashy Magazine. You can find that
check that
on
out.
Instagram at Classy Trashy Magazine. Yeah.
And do you have a podcast to plug? Something like that?
I do. I have a podcast. It's called Thirst Trap. You can find it on Instagram at Thirst Trap the Pod, or you can just find it on all major streaming platforms, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify. And you can follow me on Instagram at Natalie Cuomo _.
Yeah, so people will find you on all the things. Natalie, thanks for coming and doing the show. You have anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm stoked for Friday. We're gonna have so much fun.
It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. And
yes.
we'll make my buddy Sean feel weird one way or another.
Oh, we most certainly will.